For decades, the VFX and animation production person has been generating weekly reports and spreadsheets as a form of ritual interface with the unknowable, namely, how the film will ever get finished. In this series, we are taking a foray into the superhero industrial complex and learning just how a spreadsheet can learn Artspeak. In this episode, we're going to look at a few ways to extract data into a format that you can use and import when you're receiving partial information. So today is a really exciting day. We're finally getting turnover on the WTF sequence, and we have been waiting ages, and we're really excited. And we know that one of the first things we have to do actually is get some of this information as a shot into our databases. And I know that I have to capture, for my studio, I have to get the sequence and the scene data, but all I've been given is the shot codes. One of the great things about naming conventions in our industry is that so long as they're relatively consistent, all of this data we can kind of pick up later, should we need to. So I know that I need to get the scene or the sequence, which is WTF, and have that kind of populate in here. And the easiest way to do that is to use the left of this cell, which is where it's contained. So if we go here, and I know that WTF is 3 characters, now we have the WTF sequence showing from our shot data. But unfortunately, someone has kind of probably hand typed some of this in, and there's some really funny things going on here. It's not showing up quite how we want to, and it's destroying my beautiful sequence list. So we're going to try and see if we can get rid of that. And one easy way to do that is to use the trim function. We're just going to pull that down. And that is removing all of those unnecessary spaces. Now I'm going to paste this over as a special data point and put this in as values only so that it doesn't keep holding onto the formula. Now that this is back in, this is all showing up on my sequence. So I can get rid of this now that it's been our helper and continue pulling this down. So now we have our sequence, but I also need to get the scene one from here, and I could manually type that in, but if it was a really big toner and we've got lots of different codes in there, I probably really wouldn't want to, and also I'm lazy, so I don't really want to do that anyway. And we can see that our scene is captured in the middle of our shot code. So we're going to use mid. We're going to select our cell, and we can see that the information we need is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters in, and it's 3 characters that we need to return. So now, even with only partial data, we've got our sequence and our scene information, and we can see how we can get that even if someone brings in a little bit of funny data or additional spaces, that we know that we can fix that. So now we have all of our shots and we have our sequence and our scene, but we also need to collect frames in and frames out. And unfortunately, the only thing we've been supplied with is the frame ranges. So we can't fill this in just yet. So one of the ways to approach this as an issue is to select these and go to Data, Split Text to Columns, and to select, in this case, a custom delimiter, or the thing that is limiting these 2 sets of data that could be separated. So I pop in my dash, and now it's separated. This is Google Sheets. In Excel, you would look for your delimiter in your data columns or in your data menu, and you would choose text to column, which is what this is doing here, text to column. And so now, with that, I can suddenly do my frames in and my frames out. Maybe someone's given you comma separated data. So again, we've got all of this information that we'd love to be using for these shots, but it's all comma separated. So again, we go Data, Split Text to Columns, and it's already just realized that. So the basic unit is comma separation for getting any of this sort of information separated, and it's done that for us already. And while that might not look amazingly helpful, if I go here, I can collect all of these and put them down here by going equals transpose. And we're going to select all of those. And now, again, we have frames in a useful format. Now that we have our frames in and our frames out, we want to grab our frame range and pop it with the rest of our bid data. So we're going to quickly calculate that. Take our frames out, minus our frames in. And now we have our current frame ranges. This looks a little bit different to perhaps the previous turnover data we had, where we had 227 here for 110, and now we've got 234. And actually, I think I probably want to query all of these to see if there's been lots of changes in the edit. So we're going to do a vertical lookup and see if we can check that out. So type V or vertical lookup. Here is the shot or cell we want to query. Then going back to our frame range turnover information, we want to capture where our shot code is so that it knows what to look for that's identical. We're going to go Control, Shift, and down if you're on a Mac like me. And we want to return from here 1, 2, 3, 4 as the information we want back referring to those shots. And then we're going to type false, which is a way of telling the spreadsheet that what you're after is an exact match. And now we can see that we're bringing this data and it's slightly different. We're also going to go here because we are again using specific cells and not just collecting the column. We want to pin this like a brooch. So we pop in the most pin-like of our icons, the $sign, to hold the data that we're querying on the other tab to that cell, or D1 in this instance. And now we'll auto-populate. So now we've pulled from here in our new turnover information the current frame ranges, and we can see whether they match or otherwise to the previous frame ranges that we had. Now that we have our old frame ranges and our new frame ranges, we could go through and check them manually, but an easy way to quickly query changes that there might be between these two is to use a logical query. So I'm just going to create a check column, and we simply write equals if all frames equals new frames. And we could leave it at that, and that would bring back true and false. But I don't know about you, I get a little bit bored when I'm just checking data all the time. So you can also write in a preferred word. Here we now have what's the same and what's different. So we can then go through and query and make sure that all of the actual bid data we've been given is still relevant to the changes in the edit.